Most people think a working vacation means that they're going to be answering emails while everybody else enjoys themselves at the pool. But when you run a digital content business, some of your travel can actually be a legitimate business expense. And yes, that can include flights, hotels, and meals. So I thought today I would show you the exact framework that I use to keep it legitimate and compliant. But before I do, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button, that hype button. It's really the best way you can help out the channel. Now, I do need to say this first. I am not a CPA. This is not tax advice. I'm merely sharing the system that I personally use, and you should always confirm the details with your own tax professional. My business is digital content creation and affiliate marketing kind of wrapped up into one. So I have 3 other YouTube channels that all make money. This one doesn't because it's fairly new. I also have a storefront on Amazon. I do user generated content videos for brands. To way oversimplify it, I review products, I recommend gear that I actually use, and I earn a commission when somebody buys something through my links. And to a lesser degree, there's also ad revenue and video production revenue and licensing rights. Various things go into this, but it's essentially a digital content creation business. Because the business is digital, I can film content almost anywhere. So if I'm reviewing travel gear, hotels, backpacks, or filming location-based content, the trip itself can become part of the work. Now, there's a lot more to it that I'll get into, but here is the key concept. The trip itself has to have a legitimate purpose connected to your business income. Basically, the IRS rule says that business expense must be ordinary and necessary for your work. So, for example, if you're a travel content creator and you're filming a resort review in the Florida Keys, then your travel can totally be part of your work. But if you just go on vacation and happen to bring a camera, that's not going to be the same thing. So for domestic travel inside of the United States, the biggest factor is the primary purpose of the trip. And that usually boils down to business days versus personal days. So if most of your trip is business, then your airfare may be deductible. Now, if most of your trip is vacation, your airfare usually is not deductible. So it probably really doesn't come as a shock that the secret here is going to be the documentation. So for me, I plan the business purpose before the trip even starts. So what I do is just kind of come up with an outline. I'll block out filming days, content goals. If I happen to have any kind of conferences or meetings, those will be on there. So for example, day 1 might be to film the travel and do a gear review. Day 2 could be like a hotel review or a resort review. Day 3 could be like a conference or a meeting if I happen to have one. And if a day is personal, then I mark it as personal because those expenses are not deductible. Another thing that you want to do is separate every expense. So for example, you'll have business airfare if your trip qualifies, your hotel expense on working days, 50% of your business meals, conference tickets, or really any other admission tickets to anywhere that is required for you to do your work. For example, if your job is to film Disneyland, well, you got to get in. Also, equipment that you use for filming, maybe you're doing a gear review. So if I film 3 product reviews during a trip, then those filming days clearly support the business purpose. I want to be clear that this approach is not about getting the IRS to pay for your vacations. It's about running a real business that happens to be location flexible. If you treat content creation like a hobby, then the IRS is going to treat it like a hobby too. But if you keep proper records and run it like a business, then travel can become part of that business. I'm curious how many of my fellow refirees have found ways to expense their travel. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I feel like I need to warn you that next week's video is going to be about taxes too, but it's going to be entirely different than this week's video. I'm going to call it a Refired Rant. It's not going to be the typical video that I do. Maybe you guys will like it, maybe you won't, but I'm going to give it a try. We'll call this series. I'll do a series. Let's do a series. We'll call it a Refired Rant series. Hopefully, it doesn't turn out to me just having a really bad, grumpy old man moment. But you talk about being refired. I get pretty fired up over things like property taxes. And that's what I'm actually going to talk about next week. If you're interested in seeing me have a grumpy old man moment, then tune in next week. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.